Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ill Factor. Throughout this video, I'm going to share with you my process of using a vocoder to bring color and creative life to my vocal performances. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I've opened up a session that I've worked on a couple years back, in which this was an awesome session to be a part of. I had the privilege to work with phenomenal singer-songwriter Sia, and we worked together on writing this song, which landed on, years later, it landed on Kygo's project, Cloud9, his album. And then we got this amazing, phenomenal singer to recut the vocals, Foxes, and she did an incredible job. So let me just play this in context. You get to hear the vocals and the music in context, and then we're going to walk you step by step throughout this video and how I'm going to implement the vocoder to add some creative life to this. So let's get a little creative by using a vocoder. So the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate my lead vocal track. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be your lead vocal. This could be any vocal track, whatever it is. Or this could be any instrument track for that matter. But in this particular case, I'm going to apply this on the vocal. So I'm going to highlight this track, right click, or use the short key command to duplicate it. And we're going to duplicate it, meaning that we're having the same exact vocal performance on here. So we're going to have one lead, unaffected track without the vocoder, and then we're going to have this one here with the vocoder, the one underneath it, the duplicated track. So just for my sanity, I'm just going to write Sia vocode vox, and we're going to head over to the audio effects folder in Ableton Live. And now if you're following along with any other DAW, such as Logic or maybe even Pro Tools, you could use any other third-party vocoder that you might have plugged in. And so I'm going to drag and drop the vocoder here onto Sia's track. And now we have Autotune just to kind of help with some pitch issues, and then we have the vocoder. Now let's just solo this track with the vocoder located on it. Yeah, that sounds a little scary. It sounds like I was watching The Ring or something like that. And so what we're going to do is the noise feature on the vocoder is really cool to use. And I might actually just create another video entirely, because I've actually used the noise on drums and percussive elements to do some really cool things. So I might just do a video on that. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments below. But what I'm going to focus on here, now the carrier, this is important because the carrier of any vocoder means, hey, where are we getting the signal from? Now just hang with me for a second here. I want you to treat or think of the vocoder as an instrument, such as maybe a trumpet, trombone, some type of instrument in which somebody puts to the mouth and blows air through it to produce the sound. By itself, a trumpet or a trombone won't produce sound. A person has to blow air through it, and specifically through the mouthpiece, creating a buzzing that will vibrate the air through that horn to produce the tone. Well, that's what the vocoder is like. By itself, it won't do anything. So it needs something to generate signal through it so that you can hear your vocals being processed through that vocoder. I hope that makes sense. But let me go ahead and jump into showing you how we're going to use the analog to do exactly that. So we've got the vocoder set to external. Now what we're going to do is head over to instruments, and we're going to choose the analog. Analog's pretty basic, it's standard, but it's a great device to use if you don't have any other third parties. And if you want to use a third-party instrument to trigger this, by all means, you're more than welcome to do so. So I'm going to just create a MIDI track, Command-Shift-T, and drag the analog right underneath that. I'm going to make sure that the analog stays right next to the vocoder track, so it's just easy to find in my sessions. So now that we've got the analog loaded, let's go back to the track of the vocals that have the vocoder on there. And we're going to go and choose external, and we're going to go into audio from and choose the analog. And here it is, track 23, analog. And underneath that, you have the ability to choose pre-effects, post-effects, or post-mixer. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose pre-effects. We don't have anything on the analog anyways, but that's always good to know, because if you have maybe like some distortion, reverb, or something like that, and you want that to be the signal that triggers the vocoder, then you would choose post effects. but since there's nothing on the analog, we'll just keep it at pre. Now, let's arm the analog, and what we're going to see happen on the vocoder is that we're seeing signal show up here on the audio from, but yet we're hearing the analog. So I'm going to unsolo that, and now I'm triggering the analog, but I won't hear anything. So if I hit play, we also hear nothing but silence. We see the marker passing through the vocals. We're seeing some visual happen here, but we won't hear any vocals being processed until we trigger the analog. It's the same thing as the trumpet. You put the trumpet to your mouth, you won't hear anything till you begin to blow air through that horn. So here we go. We're just going to play on a MIDI controller. Cool. Now let's hear a little bit in context by bringing in the lead vocal and just playing around with some chords to give some just overall creative dynamics to the lead with this new lead being vocoded.
Tonight, I feel like I'm lost in the desert, but you're my oasis. You found my heart.
Cool. Now you have to keep in mind that whatever you do to the analog will have an effect on the tonality of the vocoder. So for instance, if we go to one oscillator and we choose instead of sawtooth sine, that will change the overall texture and tone of the vocoder. If we put an octave higher and maybe go to the second oscillator and choose a little bit of the subharmonic, just a little bit of that low end, or even if we filter it and whatever you tweak and whatever you add or change on the vocoder will have an effect. On the analog will have an effect on the vocoder. So you might add a little bit of white noise so you get some top end there, and we'll just lower the volume here. So now let's go ahead and play that once again.
Tonight, I feel like.
So it looks like I filtered a little bit too much, so I'm going to let the filter open up, and let's try it one more time.
Tonight, I feel like I'm lost in the desert, but you're mine.
So let me just highlight a couple things about the vocoder itself, just some functions about it that can help you achieve some specific sounds that you're looking for. Now, one thing to keep in mind are the bands. And I want you to think of the bands on the vocoder as you would with a camera, right? Lower megapixels mean lower resolution, and higher megapixels give you better resolution in your photos. That means more pixels per square inch. So the more bands you have in your vocoder, the greater detail you're capturing from that vocal performance or the source that you're sending to this vocoder. So if you choose 40 bands, you'll have a lot more detail in your performance. So let me trigger the analog and play it. You'll see the difference. And you have a lot more bands to choose from to take away when you're filtering out those frequencies. And that's what this section is. You could choose this as like an EQ, taking or filtering out specific frequencies in each band. So the more bands you have, the more detailed frequencies you can take out. The less bands, such as from 40 to 16, obviously you have a lot less to work with. I technically just leave it at 16 bands because the effect I'm using the vocoder for is exactly what you're hearing now. Just some more coloration in contrast with the lead. And then you can have specific ranges, frequency range. Here we have from 80 hertz to 20 kilohertz. A gate on it, the level of the actual vocoder itself, and then the attack and release. And the release, having the release set to a longer release than default, gives you a really cool effect, as if like creating almost a pad type effect with the vocoded signal. For instance. Right? But the lower the release is, the sharper and the more detailed the ending of any phrase that you're using the vocoder on is. And now those are just the basic essentials of using a vocoder, and specifically this vocoder in Ableton Live on your tracks, whether it be vocal, instruments, drums. It doesn't really matter because the same principles apply all around. Now, one thing you want to do is when you unsolo this, you want to make sure that the analog track is muted, because if you're starting to trigger or record parts for that specific part in the song, the analog will actually be playing at the same time with the vocoder, and it's just going to be a little, cumbersome in the mix. So mute your analog track. You'll still be able to trigger it and play it, but now you're only going to be hearing the affected vocals. So I'm going to bring up the vocoder vocal up a little bit, and let's see what we can do. Next thing we do is we're going to record the MIDI performance, because it's not literally going to record the audio by just me playing. I don't have to do that every time I play it. So let's just go ahead and track my MIDI performance. So there you go. Now you can fine tune your adjustments here with the MIDI performance, and like we said earlier, whatever effect you have on the analog, or however you affect the performance of the analog, will affect the overall vocoder effect. Now, the inspiration for this video really came from a subscriber to this channel, Michael Ragland, who asked on a previous video that I created, in which I shared 3 tips in using a warm reverb in your mix. Michael asked this: hey, what are you using on your background vocal effects? Is it a harmony engine? Is it the Waves doubler? And so hopefully this will be the first of many videos that I get to do in the near future, if time permits, in which I get to answer some of your questions that you leave in the comments below. So go ahead and do that for me now. Just leave some comments, subscribe to this channel, and be sure to click the link in the description box so that you can download my gift to you for watching this video. This is an Ableton Live set including some loops, effects, instrument racks, and a vocal chain that I've created using stock plugins to help get the very best of your vocal performances when recording in Ableton Live. Thank you for watching, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care.